Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are looking at how to make notation for geometrical diagrams. So the first thing that I'm going to need you to do is you are going to need to get a piece of paper on which to take some notes. And on this piece of paper, I want you to draw a line down through the center. And on the left, I want you to make a column figure. And on the right, I want you to name that column notation. All right, we're going to take a look at some of the notation for the figures in this diagram here. So you'll notice, first of all, 5 points. And to name a point, you are going to just use the capital letter. For example, point P would look like this. We could also, in our diagram, name point R. We could name point Q. We could also name M and N. Another thing in this diagram that you'll notice is a segment. And a segment is the part of a line between two endpoints. So to make the notation for a segment, you're going to name the two endpoints. In this case, RQ, and the symbol is just a dash over the top. Now you could name the same segment QR. Doesn't matter which direction, using the same symbol. Now back over in this diagram, you will notice that we also could name a ray, and a ray is a part of a line that starts at one endpoint and goes in one direction forever. So in this case, we'll start at R and we'll look at the ray that goes through Q in the direction of Q. And to make the notation for that, we're going to name the endpoint R and the direction RQ, and the symbol is just an arrow. Make sure it goes in the direction of Q in this case. Now, in this diagram, we could also name one of the two lines that are seen here. And there are several, as we said, several lines. One of the lines is PQ, and PQ goes in both directions forever, starting at this side, P, and going in the direction of Q, like so. And to name this line, we don't have endpoints, so we're just going to name the two, or any 2 points actually. So I'm going to use PQ, and this would be the symbol for a line. We could also call this line PR, it would be the exact same line. We could also call this RQ. We could also put these in different order. QR would be the same line, RP, and QP. Okay, back over here at our diagram, we can also take a look at, well, before we do that, let's take a look at the symbols that we've written so far. So in this, on our notes page here, can you find anything you notice is similar, anything that is different about the notation for segments, rays, and lines? What is alike about that notation and what is different? Okay, back in our diagram, we are now looking at the two lines that you see here. So we have line MN, which would be written as MN with the symbol. And we are looking at line PQ, which looks like this. Now these two lines have a very special relationship. They form 4 right angles. If there's one right angle formed with two intersecting lines, there will be all 4 will be right angles. And this is called perpendicular. And the symbol for perpendicular looks like this. So over here in our notes, we have perpendicular. And to write the notation for that, we would name the two lines. So we have PQ, and we have line MN, And we have the symbol for perpendicular, which looks like this. Now, in our diagram, we can talk about the angles that are formed, and the symbol for an angle would be, first of all, the first angle that I want to talk about, there are several angles formed here, but the first angle I want to talk about is angle MRQ. And you'll notice that when we draw an angle, or we look at an angle, we always name the vertex is always in the middle. So when we write the symbol for this, we would write angle MRQ. Notice that the vertex is in the middle. We could also call this angle QRM. Again, doesn't matter, except that the vertex has to be in the middle. So over here in our notes, we will write angle MRQ. Now we can actually talk about several angles here. Another angle that you'll notice is the angle not just MRQ, we could also talk about the angle, all right, let's see here, we've got angle MRQ, which we just named. We could also talk about angle MRP, this angle over here. Now, angle MRQ and angle MRP, both are 90 degrees, so we can say that they are congruent angles. They're both 90 degrees. Okay, so over here in our notation, if two angles are congruent, we can name them, and angle MRQ is congruent to angle MRP. Another thing that we can make notation of is how to write the measure of an angle. So if we're writing the measure of an angle, for example, we just said that the measure, we're going to use a lowercase m for measure of angle MRQ equals 90. When we want to name the angle measure, we're going to use this lowercase m, and we're going to use an equal sign. We could also talk about the measure of angle MRP also being 90. Okay, the last thing that I want to note over here is I want us to take a look at the one more angle, and that angle would be a straight angle, which we've talked about before. The straight angle that I want to look at is angle PRQ. Now you might say, well, that's a line. But if we talk about the angle PRQ and we write it as angle PRQ, we're actually talking about this straight angle, the two rays that make the angle. Now, the measure of angle PRQ is 180 degrees. We already knew that. Over here on our notes, please write straight angle. And the straight angle we're going to look at is angle PRQ. And as we said, we can also talk about the measure of angle PRQ, which is 180 degrees. Okay, keep that notes page. If you would like to take a screenshot of the one that I have here, that's fine. You need to keep this. We're going to be looking at this notation and using it throughout the week. Now, if you haven't already, please go back to Google Classroom and complete your corrections.